Hey everybody, we are back. The Bad Pennies are back. I am Sho and this is my friend Alan.
And here we are, doing our thing, trying to save the world. So we've got an interesting, we kind of had the end of the last podcast, we kind of had a little bit of a cliffhanger. And we kind of like leaving cliffhangers anyway. So, but because it really, this is a discussion and work that continues. Wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, there's always more to learn, more to be, improving ourselves. So,
and make sure you guys watch the full episode.
Yeah, see, because there's so much good stuff that we've woven into the longer episodes.
The shorts are there to attract you, to bring you in, so that you can watch the full episode.
Yeah, and look, if you can't watch the whole, the early ones are all like an hour long.
Yeah.
And you may not have an hour, so maybe watch them in a couple of bites or something like that. Break it up a little bit. But we're going to be doing 20-minute episodes now, so you should be able to get through a 20-minute episode, and even take notes if you want to. God forbid that a man would write something down, but definitely you can do that. So look, we're going to talk about something that is might be a little bit uncomfortable to talk about, or at least to hear, which is why men do stupid shit.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I and then you're out there going like, not me. I don't do stupid shit. That was other men do stupid shit. I don't do stupid shit. But the truth is, we all do stupid shit.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's because we act before we think.
Act before we think.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And we are predisposed to act before we think. Did you know that? We're kind of programmed.
It's in the nature of
things? It's sort of in our DNA. Yeah. It's definitely in our DNA. I mean, if you're hunting down that, saber-toothed tiger or that mastodon or whatever, and it turns on you, you don't have time to think. You just have to do. You have to act.
Okay.
And in many situations, it's actually a life-saving kind of response, right?
Okay.
In battle, it could be a life-saving response, but in a much more polite, cultured society, acting before we think gets us in a lot of trouble. And as I've said before on previous podcasts, I don't personally believe in toxic masculinity, but there is bad behavior.
Okay, fair.
And and they put a label on bad behavior, but it's just bad behavior.
Right.
And men often operate out of control when they're acting in many situations. Where throwing the spear is not necessary to save your life, then you've got the time to take a look at things before you actually just do something stupid.
Okay.
And what happens is we do something stupid and then we go, oh well, that wasn't a good idea. But the damage is already done, and when you're around women and children, the damage could be much greater than the price could be much greater than you want to pay.
Okay, fair.
Right, because you've got to pay for your actions.
Okay.
In all the aspects. I mean, life is in many ways kind of like a business transaction. There's to get something out of it, you got to put something into it. So there's a constant exchange.
So one reason why men do stupid shit is because they act before they think.
They act before they think, or they're again out of control. And when you're out of control, you're just off balance. You're off balance, and there are a lot of things that contribute to men being off balance. But one of them is something we talked about a little bit in the past, which was about getting emotional about things. Men get emotional. They tend to make bad decisions. And remember, when a man is emotional, he's out of control. It's not a good place to come from.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
you got to let the emotion pass.
When we say a man is out of, we say a man is emotional. I tend to think that what you're trying to say there is that a man doesn't have control of his emotions at that time. Right?
Yes.
Every man is supposed to have emotions.
Oh, of course. We're human beings. Human beings are emotional creatures.
Yeah. But it's about when you let them out or when you how you express them.
And there's how you express them. And unfortunately, when men go through life off balance, out of control, because again, when you're off balance, you're not in control.
Right.
Okay. You're out of control.
Okay.
So then you act before you think.
Yeah.
You not only that, you act on an emotional response rather than on a rational response.
Yeah, I like that. There's a phrase that I hear nowadays where I hope I get this right. Where it's like, don't make permanent effects based on temporary decisions.
Oh yeah,
right?
that was like, I think Robin Williams coined that about suicide. That it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Wow. And then he had suicide.
And well, he had a very
he had a brain condition.
He had a brain condition.
Yeah.
So and we're gonna love him and forgive him for the fact that he did not have control over what happened at the end of his life. But the joy and laughter that he brought to the human race was undeniable, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So again, so what we're going to talk about is thinking before acting.
Thinking before acting. All right.
Okay. And what do you want to do when you think before you act? So let's just sort of boil it down to something simple and masculine. Okay. So we've been warriors and soldiers are almost our entire history. Hunters, gatherers, and we do things in packs.
Yeah.
And we did decide better to be a pack wolf than a lone wolf, right?
We did.
But there are times where a lone wolf is fine. I mean, it's not, we're not saying that doing things alone is a bad thing. In fact, there are a lot of things that you do alone. There are just certain things that you know that you can't do alone.
Okay. And
you also know that that we are more powerful together than alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a more powerful thing to do. And why wouldn't you choose more power rather than less?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And also, by the way, being part of the pack, if it's a good pack anyway, I mean, you want to make sure that that the pack you're in isn't like also making stupid decisions and acting before thinking, right? But in a good situation, it's a place where you can bounce things off of the men, right? That you can ask for their opinions. You don't have to take it, by the way. I mean, opinions, everybody has one. So, but sometimes it's good to just be able to get a reflection back from men that you trust and that you care about, and that way you can make a good decision. Because ultimately, when it comes to things in your life, only you are the one responsible for the decisions that you make. Even if your men tell you to do a particular thing, before you just act on it, you need to consider all enough information to be able to get it. And it means it doesn't mean that it isn't without risk, right? Because we like risky.
Okay.
We do. We success doesn't come without risk.
No risk, no reward, right?
That's it. But so you have to risk, and that one of the possibilities when you're risking is that you'll fail.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but you learn from your failure. You don't necessarily just
well, you can. I mean, one would hope, right?
we're talking to men here, so men need to learn from their failures. That's the whole point about it. You fail and you learn, and you fail and you learn, and you fail, you learn, and eventually you'll maybe start having some wins, right? Because you're not going to win everything. Okay.
You're just not going to win everything. You hope that you win some things. Right. So, but the best way to get to that winning place is by learning from the failures. But sometimes you can circumvent certain types of failures by thinking before you act.
Okay.
And you don't want to overthink.
Yeah, that's
because I know men that do that. They overthink everything,
over panic, and usually wind up doing something wrong anyway.
Actually, a great example, and a man who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, who was probably, arguably, one of the most honest presidents that we've ever had, was Jimmy Carter. Now, politics aside, I'm just talking about the man, not the politics. Okay, so we're not talking about one party over another party and, conservative and liberal and all that kind of stuff. We're just talking about the man that was there. And the man that was in the presidency was an incredibly caring man who cared about humanity. He was incredibly selfless. He was very smart. And he was also pretty clear about his purpose. And if you haven't read his book, actually, I think he wrote a couple of them, but if you haven't read any of his writings about being president, it's actually worth taking a look at. For a number of reasons. But regardless, his books are also very revealing about his own shortcomings.
It's good to know your own weaknesses.
It is. But one of the things that he struggled with was that he was a micromanager.
Okay.
And micromanagers are men who overthink things and try to control things.
Right.
And his micromanaging came from a place of not wanting to make a bad decision. So he often would delay decisions until he had what he felt was enough information. It maybe even too much information. Because if you're waiting to make a decision and you're overthinking it, trying to get all of the information and weighing all of the things, what ends up happening is that you haven't made any decision. And there's an old saying that says that the only thing worse than a bad decision is no decision.
Okay, I've heard that.
Okay,
because
you might have heard it from me. So maybe I coined it. I don't know, but I don't think I did. But the bottom line with that is that you when you've made a decision and you realize that it may have been the wrong one, you can in many cases reverse and change directions, right? You can compensate, you can make up for it, you can just say, hey, this was the wrong decision, we're going to go another way.
Okay. So
take the hit. You take a hit sometimes when you make a bad decision, right?
Yeah.
And so you again, when we talked a lot about being responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be responsible for your decisions, and hopefully we don't make too many bad ones. But we not every decision we make is the right one.
Yeah, but we're talking about thinking before you act, right?
Right.
So you make the decision. The
and
decision
you go
is a thought process.
Yeah, it is. Just gathering just what you need to be able to make the decision, not more, not less.
Yeah.
I mean, because too little information it leaves you still very vulnerable to making a bad decision.
Okay.
And again, without emotion. If you're emotional about it, it's not the time to make a decision, because your emotions will come into play and they will cloud the whole deal. You'll bring in, when we talk about being in story. I mean, there's a lot of, transformational disciplines that talk about how dangerous it is to just be in a story, because story is just trying to prove to yourself something that may not be true, right? So you tell a story about it.
All right.
You tell a story to make sure that you're right, but we're not right, but we're not wrong either. Right, so you don't need the story. You need to see the truth. You need to see what's happening in reality, what's happening in real time. Okay, and gather the information because again, when you start to get emotional about it, you'll start to tell a story about it. Maybe not to others, but to yourself. What's going on in here. You'll start to manipulate your thought process. You don't want to do that. You want to. Thinking before acting means gathering real-time information. Okay. And like I said before, we're going to take it back to who we have been for thousands of years.
Right.
As men, our place in society. In order to be successful at doing that, we've developed certain skills of awareness and communication. and information gathering.
Okay.
Right? Which is why we have, like in the male hierarchy or in the military, we have chains of command in order to get information up and down properly. Good information, right? So you need information gatherers. So you gather information, and then you're able, with good information and situational awareness, you make a decision, and then you act. Sometimes it's very simple, and sometimes it requires a little more information, but ultimately, in the end, it all ends up requiring a certain amount of risk. Because when you made a decision and you go a particular direction, until you see what the results are from that decision and the direction that you go, you don't know whether it was a good one or not, or the right one. And the only way to be able to tell again is through the results.
So men do stupid shit because they act before they think. Thinking is making a decision and then acting on the decision. If you need to backtrack the decision, then you go ahead and do that.
And take responsibility for it.
Take responsibility for going in the wrong direction in the first place, and learn the lesson from it.
Yes.
So going back to why men do stupid shit, the whole reason why men do stupid shit is because they're acting before they think.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Bottom line. And that they're acting generally off balance.
Okay.
They're acting off balance. They're acting from emotions and not necessarily from a rational place. And here's the thing. This is the good news. Basically, we're rational. It's not part of us at our best to be irrational.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. It's why we look at women weird, because we don't think they're rational, and they're not. But it's not that. But they're not wrong. All right, they're not wrong. I mean, they have emotions, and they use them brilliantly. But from our perspective, it seems irrational, and we get very judgy. We get very judgy, and you can't be judgy about women, because for the most part they're smarter than us and more capable in most ways, and all we can do is accept them and have great respect for them, and not be judgy about them. So I mean, it's a mistake to be judgy about women, and I know the women listening to the podcast are going like, right on, yeah. So because they're part of the human race, and they're as much an important part of it as we are, and we can't do this without them.
Okay.
And they can't do this without us either. But they have a better chance of doing it without us than we do without them.
Because they're less likely to do stupid shit.
Well, they'll tend to weigh things more and before they act, and they also bring in the whole emotional aspect to it.
Okay.
In a powerful way, a much more powerful way. See, when we get into the emotional aspect of it, it actually isn't powerful for us. It doesn't help us. It actually contributes again to us being off balance, and we don't want to be off balance. We want to be standing on solid ground when we make decisions that we're clear about the direction we're going, and you'll find that your odds of making good decisions actually improve. That doesn't guarantee that all your decisions are going to be perfect, right?
Okay.
But it will increase the odds, I think, in many ways. And don't you want to? I mean, it would be like going to Las Vegas, right?
Hey, I have fun
and gambling, right? But if we told you there was a way to increase your odds of winning, wouldn't you want to do it?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
We're not guaranteeing that you're going to win. We can't do that. We just want to increase your odds.
Okay.
Right?
Okay,
and all this work is specifically to increase your odds of having a great life, yes, and being successful and winning, and winning the girl, winning the best dad, winning the most successful man. I mean, it's making a difference in the world, and that's a win right there. It's just making a positive impact on the world around you. Mm-hmm. You can't do that thinking before acting. I mean, acting before thinking.
Acting before thinking.
Yeah. See how easy that was?
Shit.
Yeah.
If you're doing stupid shit, you won't be that successful.
And then the whole thing of toxic masculinity will go away, because it's really not a real thing. It's not. It's just a label put on men and bad behavior, and our bad behavior is when we come from the wrong place.
Okay. So there you go, everybody. Stop doing stupid shit. Make sure you think before you act.
Maybe we should have just said that when our podcast would have been only 30 seconds long, right?
There you go. And we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah.
All right. Bad Pennies.
See ya.